Rusty Miller, Associated Press. How daunting is it that there's still NCAA final sanctions that haven't come down yet, and it could entail perhaps a bowl ban or additional scholarships that you might have to deal with next year?
Well, I think that's where the faith and trust has to come in. I have great trust and faith in our athletic director and president, Dr. Gee and Gene here, that conversation was had. On my own, I did a little bit of research, but at the end of the day, I asked the same question you did. Is there anything behind door number 2, number 3, or number 4? And I feel very confident and have great trust that there's not. We'll have to deal with a scholarship issue, and I have great trust that we will, and we'll move forward.
Right front, Doug.
Doug Lesmerises, the Cleveland Plain Dealer. Urban, you have a reputation for being a very committed coach, a very intense coach. How much do you feel you will be pretty much the same guy you were at Florida, or how much in the end do you think you'll be a little bit different in how you coach right now?
Well, that coach at Florida went through some stages. You know, I hope I'm the same guy I will be the same guy that the beginning of the tenure, and that was a guy that did have balance, a guy that took care of himself, a guy that did not try to get involved and change everything. And I think as it rolled on, you know, we were dealing with some magical things going on there, and then the pursuit, I call it the pursuit of perfection. I think at the end of the day, we all understand there's no such thing. And I fell victim to that. And so I've been to a place I'm not going to go back. And I'm sure there's a lot of people in this room maybe been places they don't want to go. And I was there, and I'm not going back. So,
left front, Dave.
Hi, Urban. Dave Biddle from Bucknuts.com. When you hear the name Braxton Miller, what goes through your mind?
I just met Braxton, and I wanted to meet Braxton. That was very important. All due respect, everybody in this room, that was the highlight of my day, not this. Just sitting there shaking hands with that good-looking quarterback with a nice smile and a very humble player. I watched him play throughout the year. I watched him compete in the big game, and to sit here and tell you I'm excited to coach him, I'm not using the correct adjectives, and because there's a mixed company here, I'm not going to use the correct adjectives, how excited I am. So I think you get it, right? Real excited.
Right front, Paul.
Urban over here. Paul Doherty, Cincinnati Enquirer. What did you not like about college football that might have influenced your decision to step away, and how has it become more to your liking in the last 12 months?
Well, it's hard. I'm going to say this the right way. I tried to do other people's jobs because I'd sit in a staff room and I'd hear about all the nonsense going on and where recruits and why they were going here, what was going on, and that's age old. You know, and I tried to, and maybe to a fault. I think some things were going on. Obviously, there were, because all you do is read the newspapers for the last 12 months or the last 2 years, and we all make mistakes, but willful and intentful mistakes. I have a real problem with that, and I let that not destroy me, but. ESPN, we were at a little seminar this summer, and a guy gave a presentation. He talked about just keep it in center field. ESPN does a great job keeping it in center field. And I'm sitting there as I'm doodling, making notes. My problem was I left center field. I started trying to cure NCAA issues. I started trying to cure agent issues, maybe drug issues, maybe the whatever. And I went out of center field. There's people that get paid a lot of money and very professional, that's their obligation and responsibility to fix those things. And after spending time with NCAA and evaluating and sitting back, and you know what? That's their job. That's not my job. So I'm going to go about and I'm going to keep it right in center field. And that's do what I do, enjoy doing, coaching guys like Braxton Miller and some of these great players here at Ohio State.
Second row left, Tim.
Yeah, Urban. Tim May, Columbus Dispatch. I remember
it's been a long time, Tim.
Yeah, it is. By the way, we do welcome home, but that's another point. How would you describe your style, what you want out of a football team, if you had to put it into words? I got two questions. I want to ask that one first.
I think go hard. I mean, like relentless. I want a bunch of coaches that coach like their hair's on fire, and I want a football team that goes 4 to 6 seconds of relentless effort. You do that, you got a chance of winning every game you play. Now you go down and recruit some good players. The formula is real simple. You go recruit some really good players that know how to compete and tough, and you go surround them with the best coaches in the country. You usually find a way to win a few games, and so that's the formula we're going to use here, and we're going to go really, really hard.
The second one, when did Ohio State just put its feelers out to you? I mean, obviously November 20th is when you sat down or when you got contacted formally. When did Ohio State first start making some contacts or vice versa?
Last Sunday. I mean, I got like a ridiculous amount of letters and emails. You're not talking about that, right? I don't know how people got my phone number, and I mean it's. But I mean. There was word out that you were being courted for a while. Yeah, but it was some 12-year-old wearing Ohio State sweatshirts. Come on, Coach, let's go. No, but it was last Sunday.
Right front, second row, Bryant.
Coach, Brian Billing with the Springfield paper in Springfield, Ohio. Coach, through the years, and especially recently too, coaches from your neck of the woods down in Florida have been able to come up to our area and grab recruits. There was one particular person in Springfield that Nick Saban was able to come up and get to. What do you think you're going to be able to bring to the Ohio State staff to prevent people from going out of state?
That's tough. The SEC's hot right now, and I've recruited against Alabama as well. They're hot. I mean, but so is Ohio State, and so we're going to do. That all goes back to our best recruiters, and I just talked to our players about that. First of all, them, and then it's your group of assistant coaches that you bring in. So I'm gonna. You put together the right staff. You can. I'm not saying stop that, but you can.
Just be an EMS. Ben, EMS. EMS.
We need an EMS to the back, please.
EMS.
What's up, J5?
Chris?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, let's hold off a second. Everybody just be respectful. Let's hold off a minute.
The thumbs up, Ben. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We will resume left back. Dom.
Coach Tom Tiberi, WBNS TV. Good to see you again.
Good to see you.
What title will Luke have on the staff? And two-part, your take on the OSU-Michigan game.
Question number one, Luke, I don't want to speak before I'm ready to speak. It'll be a significant title and significant position on our staff. Luke and we have not even had that conversation. We will shortly because I want his expertise and help me put together the staff. Second, obviously, that's the game of games. That's the game that I grew up watching. It's a game that I thought both teams played very hard. It's also a team that the next game's 362 days away, so I understand the significance of it. And I remember my experience in that game was the first year when Jim Harbaugh guaranteed to win here in Ohio Stadium, and then the second one was Coach Bruce's final game at Michigan, and we were able to beat Bo Schembechler in Michigan. So the one thing that I know about that game, as much as there is dislike and hatred across college football and some rivalries, there's their share of that, but there's also a lot of respect in that rivalry, and I'm really looking forward to coaching in it.
Far right, Jared.
Hi, Urban, back here. Back to your right. Hi, Jared Smalley from NBC4. You've had the rare opportunity to look at the football team you're about to coach with a critical eye from the broadcast booth. I wonder what deficiencies you maybe see as you come into this job in the football team and how you might attack those best in recruiting.
Well, I think Luke's better at that because I didn't have a good feel for who's coming back, who's hurt. I know Nathan Williams, I got to see him. I think he's not a good player. I think he's a great player. I think he's kind of the heart and soul. When he went out, that hurt us. That hurt Ohio State. I think Braxton Miller's a difference maker at quarterback. You can build a team around what I saw, but until I get my hands on him, obviously, in end of spring, I can be real detailed. So what I see is I'm going to really lean on Coach Fickell. I've already had that discussion with him. He made the comment we need depth at linebacker and pick that position up a little bit. And some other areas I'd rather not comment now until I get my hands on it, though.
Front left, Matt.
Coach Matt Markey, Toledo Blade.
Matt Markey.
You've had the good fortune.
Is that Lauren Markey to your left?
Yes. You've had the good fortune everywhere you've gone as a head coach to have inherit a good quarterback or a great quarterback with Josh Harris at BG and Alex Smith at Utah and Chris Leak and now Braxton. Can you just kind of talk about how that makes the job easier coming in the door when you have somebody like Josh Harris?
Josh Harris is right there, by the way. I'd like to think that I kind of not. That's not why you select a job. However, that's when you are getting ready to make a decision, you do look at that because you don't have time to really build a program nowadays. You need to get going and go find a way to win. And I watched Braxton very close, but what that means at Bowling Green, obviously, that meant instant success. Josh was a tailback, converted to quarterback, that ended up being one of the best players I've ever been around. Obviously, that guy, that little skinny guy at Utah, Alex, is doing fine in the NFL now, and great player, great competitor. And then Chris Leak, what a magical player, and then obviously the guy that came behind him. So we've been blessed to have some great quarterbacks, and I'm really thinking this guy could be, I'm putting a lot of pressure on this cat already. But he's special. What I've seen on film, he's special.
Right, second row, Bob.
Bob Hunter, Columbus Dispatch. Urban, given your health issues and your situation at Florida, did you have any second thoughts at all about coming to a program like this where you've obviously been here before and you know the interest and the magnitude of the coverage and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, second, third, fourth, fifth thoughts. A lot of thoughts. A lot of, there's no people more important than my three children and my wife. They had some second thoughts. We had a team meeting. As a matter of fact, I showed Gene this not too long ago. This is a contract that my kids made me sign before I was allowed to sign a real contract. And it's tougher than any other contract I've signed in my life. So, a lot of thought. I don't want to spend all day talking about that, but I feel very blessed to be able to stand here, to know where I was and where I don't want to go again, and maybe help others. Because what's amazing in this profession, I found out a lot of guys. You just not this profession. What are we talking about? I mean, this is an age-old problem about the executive or the doctor or the lawyer, or the teacher, the professor, the policeman that just gets so enamored or so consumed by their profession that they forget really what the purpose of our whole deal is, and that's to raise a wonderful family. And so, Gene and I have talked about this. There's ways to. Whether it be teaching class, whether speaking, we're writing a book, or whatever. And I think that's part of the issues we deal with today is when you see people too consumed with their profession that they let things go at home, and then that costs them down the road. So I don't want to get too philosophical on you, but that played a major role. And when you said second, third, or fourth guess or discussion, that was a big part of it.
Third row left, Bill.
Bill Livingston, Cleveland Plain Dealer. First of all, two-part question, but have you made any determination at all on Mike Vrabel and his presence or absence on the staff to come?
I have not. I look forward. I've not met with Mike yet. I'm going to soon. I'm a big Vrabel fan. I don't know him as a coach. I'm going to watch a little bit. I'm going to have the ability to go watch, and, a guy that's never recruited. He played for a great friend of mine. I'm going to eventually reach out to Coach Belichick when it's time. But Luke Fickell would be the best expert on that because he's worked with him all season, and I'm going to lean on him quite a bit for this.
Also, different body type, obviously, between Tebow and Braxton. One's like a fullback, and one's kind of a scat back. But how many similarities are there?
I don't know. I like the way he throws. I think he's a ridiculous athlete, but you can stop ridiculous athletes by loading you up. And I like his delivery. Once again, we'll have some great conversation throughout spring practice and after spring. But I'm just real. I think he could be special.
Far right front, Kevin.
Coach, over here to you. How do you describe your style in terms of a disciplinary coach when you lay down the law to your players to do the right thing? How do you go about doing that? What's your style? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Great question. I know there's been some issues that we've had that I've had to deal with, not that we're proud of. We have a set of core values: honesty, respect, number one; treat one with respect, number two; no drugs, no stealing, and no weapons. Those are core value issues. You either are dismissed or you miss a good bunch of time playing the game. Most everything else are mistakes, and sometimes you're in a college town where things get, anything, all of a sudden it's on the front page of the paper, and so the issues we had, I see the numbers of arrests, and it's, the numbers I see are exaggerated. I know what we've had to deal with. If we had one, it's too many. Our job as a coaching staff is to mentor, to discipline, and to educate young people. And we've had a pretty good track record. We ran some bumps in the road at the University of Florida. Does that mean we had bad kids? I'll fight that forever. No, absolutely not. We did not have bad guys. Did they make stupid mistakes? Yeah. I've made a few stupid mistakes, and so we're going to correct them. We're going to go really hard, and we're going to try to recruit really good people to represent Ohio State. That does not mean we're going to give up on kids. So that's kind of a belief that we have here.
Front left, Andrew.
Coach, Andrew Lynn, Buckeye TV. My question is, I've been from Ohio. I grew up in Ohio, was born here, raised, and from the time I knew what Ohio State was, I've always wanted to come here. Ohio State has been my passion. And my question to you is, how long has it been, your dream to be standing up there right now?
You were pretty passionate. That was good. You went for about a minute telling us how much you loved Ohio State. As far back as I can remember, the one thing I do remember is walking at Thanksgiving time and walking around, and we had to go shopping, and I wasn't with my mom for something. I remember the loudspeakers in Ashtabula, Ohio, was playing the Woody Hayes versus Bo Schembechler, Ohio State versus Michigan, and I just was enamored that the whole city shut down. Everybody, that's all they listened to. And so as far back as I can remember, other than those 60 minutes in the Glendale, I've always followed the Buckeyes. Had a great. I will say this: that I my 6 years in Florida. Florida was my dream job. Everybody says, was Ohio State your dream job? That's kind of a term that's thrown around really loosely to say that I was this big and wanted to coach at Florida. No, I'm not from Florida. The way Coach Spurrier and the way I really became a huge fan, I wanted to coach there. Will always be a Gator, will always be a part of that situation. Jeremy Foley, had a great conversation with him today and yesterday. Bernie Matchin, the president down there, is one of my great friends. However, this is my home state, and it's great to be back home.
Right, second row, Jeff.
Urban over here. Jeff Snook. You sort of stole my question there, but let me follow up with a tradition. You have a portrait of Woody Hayes in your house, and I think as a kid you wore number 45. You were here the year before Coach Hayes died. Did you ever have a chance to talk with him, meet him, hear him speak, anything of that nature?
I sure did. I went over to the ROTC building and met with him. My wife, Shelley's from Chillicothe, and we were at a recruiting dinner at the Scarlet and Gray Golf Course, and we're sitting there, and Coach Hayes was in a wheelchair, wasn't doing very good. And she asked me, she said, let's go meet Coach Hayes. There was about 30 people in line. It was near the end of recruiting. And I said, I'll bring you over to his office same time. And I still regret that to this day, and so does she, that she never had a chance to meet Coach Hayes. But to say that, a fan's not the strong enough word. To think, admired him. Yes, there's always been a portrait in my house of Coach Hayes. And then obviously my mentor here, Coach Bruce, is here as well. So it goes back real thick, real strong and real thick. The admiration I have for Coach Hayes and Coach Bruce.
One more thing. Just do you remember your first time in Ohio Stadium, and if you could reflect on that for me?
I don't. I believe it was Tom Cousineau had some ridiculous amount of tackles, like a 30-tackle game, and it might have been a Michigan game, but that was so long ago. But I remember the stadium very well. I came back this year, and I was with my teammate Chris Spielman, who's here today, and a great friend, and the band came out. And I used to sneak out when I was a GA here at Ohio State. And we had the old locker room. And I knew exactly, it was 12:15 or, there's a game clock in the locker room. and I would always know it was like 16:36 when the band would come out. And Coach Bruce would be in there doing his stuff, and I'd look at that clock, and I'd shoot down those stairs and just watch that band come out and play across the field, and march across the field. And so I haven't been back since 1988 in that stadium against Akron. I'm up there with Chris and Dave Pasch. We're getting ready to broadcast that game, and that band came out of that tunnel, man. I was just wiping tears out of my eyes, and all the memories came back.
Third row left, Evan.
Evan Klosky, Buckeye TV. A couple questions.
I'm sorry.
Do you think that... Oh, over here.
Okay.
Sorry. Do you think that you can lead Ohio State with its current personnel to a national championship in the next few years? And also, you've won a couple of national championships, and one being against Ohio State. What would it mean for you to bring a national championship back to Columbus?
Wow. I was just trying to get to tomorrow, man. I mean, it's trying to go make some recruit calls tonight and get to know these guys. So, all due respect, wow, I don't know. I'm going to try to really put together a good coaching staff and do the best we can.
Right, second row, Rob.
Hey, Rob.
Hey, Rob, could you turn that on?
Earl Bruce, I believe, called his own plays. Are you going to call plays? You can have an offensive coordinator. Is this your thoughts on that and running the spread? People are pretty excited about that. So.
Yeah, we were going to hire an offense coordinator. One of the issues that I'm dealing with right now is my guys are all gone. Everybody has their little coaching tree, and mine, the Bowling Green, Utah crew, and they're all, one's at Michigan, Greg Madison, a great football coach, and you got a bunch of head coaches all around the country. So I'm going to go in, and I have to find a guy. We are going to run the spread, but the spread's also going to have some I formation pro style in it, which we've always done. We're going to try to adapt the best we can. The good thing is we have a tight end here with Jake and some big backs. You try to adapt to what you got. So it's going to be some spread elements, but there's also going to be other stuff involved. I will hire a play caller, offense coordinator. I will call plays myself and be very involved in that, like I've done in the past. But I need to hire a really good offense coordinator, and I've been blessed to have some great ones. And
we'll go a couple more minutes with Coach Meyer, and then we'll close with a few comments from Gene Smith. Far back left, Dave.
Dave, Coach over here. Dave Chudowski from Channel 3 in Cleveland. Coach, obviously all of Ohio very important, but can you just talk about how important it is to recruit in the Cleveland area?
Well, I'm from Ashtabula, and I know Cleveland very well. I've recruited Ohio. In my opening comments, I mentioned my respect I have. I actually started my career as a high school coach in Cincinnati St. X. So I love these coaches here. It's the one, it's a state where you have a high school coaches association. There's several thousand coaches show up to it. Football is really, really important in the state of Ohio. So Cleveland, Ohio, Columbus, Cincinnati, this is as good a football as there is in America. It's as well coached, certainly as well coached as any in America. So to say that I'm excited to go recruit Cleveland is not a strong enough statement. I can't wait I'm going to be on the phone tonight with a couple guys, so I can't wait to get back involved in that.
Right front, Kenny.
Right over here, Urban. The SEC has dominated college football. You were a part of that. And we hear the Big Ten's too slow, they're not fast enough. Just your thoughts, having coached against them and now coaching Ohio State out of the Big Ten, having to take down the SEC. How true are those statements, and where does it have to get better here?
I think football, that's a great question. That's obvious that the SEC right now is dominant. It's a faster league than the Big Ten. Does that mean it's a better league? When they win I think it's 5 straight national titles, the top 3 were all in the one division West. Yeah, it's the best conference in college football. Does that mean the Big Ten's far behind? I don't think it's that far. I think you'll see the game change again. It changes all the time. There was a time where the Big 12 was pushing the SEC for who had the best teams. So I see what the coach is doing at Michigan. I see other teams making Wisconsin making progress. There's a lot of good stuff going on in this conference. How far off we are? I think Ohio State, the team that I saw getting ready to play the Sugar Bowl year, I guess it was last year, right? Sugar Bowl year, I don't want to use that term, but it was SEC speed. That was a great football team, and I was blown away watching that because I didn't really get to watch them. So I don't think the Big Ten's that far off. I think you're going to see that gap closed, I hope, quickly.
Left front, Maria, last 2 questions.
Coach Maria Durant with ABC 6 and Fox 28. A lot of Buckeye fans right now watching this press conference will be watching it for the next couple of days. What would you like to say to them?
Well, it's great to be home, and the same thing that I told the players a little bit ago is that I realized those players didn't choose me. I chose them. And so I chose to pack up and move the most precious things in my life, and that's my family, to back home. And it's a decision I'm very proud of, a decision that was not thought of overnight, a decision that had a lot of prayer, a lot of research, and at the end of the day, to tell you we're excited to be back. Once again, it's not a strong enough statement. We're grateful to be welcomed back home.
Far right, last question for Coach Meyer. Mike?
Mike Foley, WCBE, referenced a couple times your admiration for Coach Hayes, Coach Bruce. Can you explain how your offensive philosophy evolved in stark contrast to theirs?
Ask the man himself. He's sitting right back there. John Gruden, who became a great friend, and I had long discussions about this. There's different elements of spread offenses. You can say Texas Tech and all these different spread offenses. The one thing that our offense that we always try to take great pride in is Big Ten, I formation, power football. We just do it from unique formations, and sometimes we do it with a 240-pound quarterback. But if you look at our plays, it's the same plays that I was brought up on, split zone and off-tackle power. That is a staple here at Ohio State. Sometimes we motion and fake a jet sweep, but we're still running hard, aggressive downhill football at you. So we've had added elements to it, but if you really cut it down and watch film and study, it's still I-formation football, just from a unique set of formations. It's just trying to be creative and outnumber people. That's all it is.
Coach Meyer, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We've got about 5 minutes on the floor with Gene Smith.
You do?
3 minutes. Bill.
And Gene, will there be any academic requirement changes? Has anything changed in terms of academic standards for recruits?
No, the only changes that are in place, obviously, the NCAA rules that were recently voted in, but nothing from the Ohio State University.
Rusty.
Gene, can you shed any light on NCAA rulings? Are you given any indication? Will it be by the end of the year? Will it be within a week? Can you narrow it down at least a little bit?
Yeah, we're hopeful, Rusty, that somewhere in mid-December we'll have a response.
And when you were in negotiations talking to Urban, does the NCAA give you any insight into what they're thinking or anything that you can tell him?
No. Obviously, we can't speculate on what they will do. All we could do is look at precedents, look at cases. Some of you know we looked at cases from January 1, 2007 that were similar to ours and looked at the rulings relative to those. And that actually what drove us to imposing some of the sanctions that we ultimately came up with. So I'm not certain what they'll do, so we'll just have to wait and see.
Third row, Brian.
Rusty, you had a follow-up question?
Go ahead.
Go ahead, I can hear you.
I just wondered are you still confident that there will be no bowl ban in this year or subsequent years?
When you look at all previous cases, there's no precedence for a bowl ban, and there's a couple of those that were much more egregious than ours. So I'm hopeful, Rusty, that we don't have that.
Third row, right, Brian?
Brian Bennett with ESPN. 2 quick questions. Were you able to get on the teleconference with the NCAA this week, or are you still going to go to the Committee on Infractions in December?
We are not required to be at the Infractions Committee in December.
And secondly, how confident are you that Coach Meyer is going to be able to fulfill this contract given some of the health issues he's had in the past?
Urban and I and his wife and family, we had great conversations about his health issues. You guys heard him explain what he went through. We had a great deal of research done on him, and I feel confident that we'll work very hard to make sure we meet the requirement of his daughter's contract. And we will make sure he has balance in his life. I think if you really listen to him, at the end of the day, that's something that he needs. And I am one of those athletic directors that believes in that. So I will work very hard to make sure he has balance. He will definitely go see his daughters play volleyball. There will be no excuse. I've heard them all in my tenure about relative to why someone can't take a vacation. That's why they call it vacation. It's unacceptable. So I am pretty dogged on making sure that he has the balance that affords him the opportunity to lead our young men.
Left back, Lori.
Gene, one of the questions that Urban answered was the difference between the Big Ten and the SEC, and one thing the SEC has been willing to do is invest in their assistant coaches. Is Ohio State willing to go to SEC levels in terms of how much money they will invest in an assistant coaching staff?
We'll put in place the resources necessary to attract the staff that Urban feels he needs.
Can you elaborate on that?
No.
You said a year and a half ago that you didn't really want to get into that kind of arms race.
What year is this, 2011?
Yeah.
What was that, 2010? 2009 I said that?
What has changed, I guess? Yeah.
Age and maturity and competition.
Far right, Doug.
Gene, were there...
Sorry, Tim. Couldn't resist. I'm sorry, where are we?
Oh, Gene, were there any other candidates that were contacted or formally interviewed?
No, Doug. I had a slate that I've been considering for a while, obviously, from the summer, and did some serious soul searching throughout the season, talked to a number of people, never talked to another candidate.
And did you, as Urban was being considered, did you feel good about the idea that he would want to come here, or how much persuading did Ohio State have to do to get him to come back into coaching and take this job?
You know, it's interesting. That Sunday we had a great conversation, and obviously, we've had former players who had a relationship with him who had been sending me messages that you ought to talk to him, and so I felt comfortable when I did talk to him that I'd have a great entree into the conversation. I want to thank those former players for sending me texts and all that type of stuff. But I felt confident when I was first made that contact that we'd have a good discussion, and so once we got into it, he was pretty passionate about it. Then I had a series of questions many of you asked here today that I needed to vet, and spent a lot of time that Sunday night, Monday, Tuesday, and then ultimately when we met with him on Wednesday, hard conversations face-to-face for the first time. So I wasn't sure, really, Doug, until we got there Wednesday and looked him in the eye and met Shelley. Shelley was in the room and actually talked through really what he talked about today. Okay, this guy's actually prepared to come back into it the right way. So that's kind of a long way to answer your question, but that's really what happened.
This is the final question. Left wall, Marty.
Gene, was having the current staff handle the bowl game really the only way to go about this? And how much impact will Coach Meyer have, game plan, things on those lines as far as the bowl game is concerned?
Well, there's obviously all of you have seen it. I've seen it. I've handled it before and seen it in different ways. And I just felt with this staff and this team, and we're fortunate, rarely do you have a chance to have your new head coach come on this way, this fast, without a staff. So it's slightly unique compared to other experiences. So it affords you an opportunity to look at it differently. So I felt that this staff was the right staff to coach this team. And particularly knowing that Urban really wanted to hopefully have a conversation with Luke, and he was hopeful going into that conversation that they would click, hit it off, and Luke would ultimately still be here. So that gave me a little edge, obviously, and so I just felt that this was the right way to do it. Now, in all likelihood, there could be some of those staff members who ultimately pursue another opportunities, and then we'll have to deal with that when that occurs. So it will be a little fluid in that regard, but we can manage it.
Gene,
and
thank you.
I'm sorry. Urban? Nothing. We will separate Urban from coaching this team. The reality is he'll go to practice on occasion, but he will focus on building his staff, building his organization, and recruiting. He will not be involved in game planning. And Bill Livingston, I got to let my man from Cleveland answer a question, so ask. Mm-hmm. You mean that? Say that again. It's funny, Bill. I've heard that. I've really never thought of it that way. I really haven't. We've had issues that we should not have, and we need to operate differently to avoid those in the future. I would never, ever hope that things would happen to another school at another school to make our situation minimized. So I've never looked at it that way. I understand what you're saying, but other people probably can project that, but I would never, ever say that, and I've never thought it that way. It's unfortunate what's happened at those schools, and I would wish that on no school. So thank you guys for coming. Appreciate your patience. Thank you.
Test 1, 2, 3. Phil, do we have everything edited? Thank you. That's something. I don't know why. Okay, there you go. Yep, sure can. We're here. Hi. Young lady, frankly, passed out. She was shooting the press conference on a riser, and she sort of keeled over into some other cameras. And quite frankly, she came to within seconds. But everybody was quick to respond. In fact, a lot of us hopped up and walked back, and she was basically treated with water right on the spot. She was able to get out of here relatively okay. So I haven't heard anything less since that, obviously. But yeah, it was a little bit unusual, and certainly things stopped for about 5 minutes here, but seemed to be okay, and we all moved on. On to the business here with Gene Smith, and the way he started it, I thought was very poignant. He said there is a certain time for leaders, and this is the right time for Urban Meyer to be the head football coach at The Ohio State University. As you alluded to a moment ago, a 6-year deal, $24 million plus incentives, and it was a deal that you said, as you said it, he was the only guy Ohio State interviewed. He now carries the weight of Buckeye fans' expectations, and they are massive. But he says he's going to do it in a more efficient fashion than